Can you guys hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. Okay, I'll go ahead and get us started, and anyone else who's joining can just jump right in. So thank you everyone for joining this afternoon's webinar. My name is Tia Rahman and I'm the Director of Professional Development. I'll be leading today's session along with Sergio Menendez. He'll be leading us through the art of project management. If you have any questions throughout the day, feel free to drop them in the chat. However, we will be answering them at the end. Please remember to keep yourselves on mute until the end. You will be able to unmute to ask questions as well, but throughout the presentation, Sergio will be the only one off of mute. And with that, I'll hand it over to Sergio so he can get us started.
Thank you. I appreciate. Thank you for the invitation and for the trust. And it's a pleasure to be here at BOMA talking to all of you. And I was tasked today to talk about project management. And I decided to go a little bit further and to talk about the art of project management. So even though we're gonna talk a little bit in details of what is the day-to-day, I decided to start this presentation in three parts. One is strategic, the other is technical or theory, and the other one is operational. So I'm gonna go over with you. I think that project management is an art, right? So I'm going to start with myself. My name is Sergio Mendes. I'm Brazilian. I work for Cushman and Wakefield since 2012. I started there in São Paulo, Brazil in 2012, and I've been with Cushman for 13 years. My experience is from 2012 to 2018 in São Paulo, Brazil, where I did a lot of projects. And here in US, I've been from 2019 to present. Before that, I was working for the competition, and I was here in New York from 2001 through 2010. So this is my background as a professional. I do like it to be called God's son, or in Spanish, Hijo de el Creador de Universo. And I was presenting this to my intern, and he started laughing. And I said, yes, we are all God's children. And there is such a lot of resources in this universe that to know that we are their son, God's son, it gives much more power than just being a project management director. So that's how I see this. I have 35 years of experience in financial control, accounts payable, accounts receivable, cash flow, budgets, anticipated cost report, which is basically 50% of what a project manager does. So we control the money for the client to make sure that the money is well spent. And I have 20 years of experience in real estate. I started my career in real estate here in New York. I changed careers in 2004. So just a little bit more than 20 years that I'm doing this. So moving forward, as I mentioned to you, project management is an art, right? And the way that I see this is like a big orchestra where the project manager is el maestro, meaning that we deal with architecture through designs, we deal with the engineers, with other consultants, audiovisual, IT, security, and all the consultants related to produce construction drawings. And then we do procurement, and then we control through the construction. We're gonna talk about this in the life cycle of a project, but I would love to show you this picture because the maestro that is leading an orchestra, if he does not know what to do, the entire orchestra doesn't go well, right? So this text here that I'm gonna send it to all of you after the meeting is, I put it together in 2014 when I mentioned that engineers can be project managers, great project managers, so is architectural, but at the end of the day, the project manager needs to be a generalist, like a maestro, putting together and leading this entire orchestra in a way that you make almost everybody, trying to make everybody happy and comfortable with the tasks so they can finish the project successful. I like to say that if we have one problem in the project, everyone fails. So this is not one-man show. This is a collaborative effort. So it's either everyone are successful or everyone fails. There is no one person fails or one department fails in a given project. Having said that, as I mentioned to you, I'm going to talk a little bit about the vision and the owner. So when the owner hires a project manager, I'm an owner's representative, meaning that I represent the owners in a given project while the owner takes care of their core of business, like financial institution, tech institutions, hospitality and health, any kind. We takes care of his problems when talk about construction, right? So imagining here, this is an owner, a CEO, or a landlord, or an investor that he's thinking about all these items: technical solution, social conscience, sustainability, productivity, wellness. And then he needs to bring revenue back to the investors. He needs to have a business plan. He needs to think about future generations. So it's this huge puzzle that you needed to combine your real life with your family, with bringing money in, with investing in an investment that is going to really give some returns. And with that, he decided to build a new space or retrofit or do some type of project. So the first step of the project manager is to understand the vision and the owner. I like to say that I'm a dreamer, that I typically dreams with the owner. And my first 2 or 3 meetings, I work very hard trying to understand what's the owner is thinking, what he really wants, what's the return on investment that he's looking for. And I try to be an expansion of the owner in helping them to accomplish what they're looking for. With that, I keep coming down to the tactical portion where what a great project manager is. What is the intangible values that a project manager can bring to the table? So many people think that if you do a PMP, if you go to 4 years of college, if you do this several times, you're going to become a great project manager. But there are some hidden values in the foundation of the success of a project manager that is not taught in the schools. And this is your character, the way that you conduct business, the way that the client trusts you. So I think that this is more, if not the same, more important than the skills is your integrity, your responsibility, your ethical behaviors, understand the client mission as with your mission and values, the vision of the project and the vision of your company and the vision of the project team, the respect amongst all of the team. We call them stakeholders. Every single stakeholder in a project is important. The teamwork, the empathy. I like to say empathy, but I go a little bit further. Compassion, try to understand the difficulty of each stakeholder in the project and really work as a support. I like to say as a servant to make sure that everybody understand the client needs and how we together can accomplish what we needed to accomplish. And then from those items, you get the relationship and you get the trust. And then, here on top of the iceberg, we have a PMI saying that we have initiation. Then we have a design, procurement, construction, monitoring and controlling, and completing the project. So a project, it depends on several people acting together to go every single step to accomplish successfully as a group. On the next slide, I like to mention that all the time. So sometimes the project manager needs to protect the client from himself, right? Some clients are looking for something, but when you explain what that something means to them, They say, oh, yes, you're right. So no, I don't want this, I want that. So the first couple of months that you go in a project, you are building up trust with your client. You're protecting the client. You're controlling expectation. You are promoting commitment and credibility in the client. All of these, I call them intangible values that will be the strength for you to deliver, what are the tasks of a project manager. So a project manager, the main tasks that they have to deliver is under the budget, on a schedule, with a scope that's exactly what the client was looking for. And then you use that with knowledge areas. I call them areas of support. That's controlling the risk, controlling the communication. Communication in project management is 95% of a project. You are communicating all the time with all stakeholders, including the client, including the community, including every single person that is part of that project. And quality control. The quality starts in the beginning. Every conversation that you have, every document that you send out, every discussion show your quality. And then when you deliver the project, the construction drawings, and when you deliver the actual project implementation, that's where you show the quality as well. So this goes in circle during in a cycle during the entire project. With that, we go to the project, right? Where is your project today? What's missing? What type of quality, communication, and risk you need in order to understand your scope, in order to understand your budget, in order to understand your schedule. Then that's how the project manager needs to get there. With that, I'm going to talk a little bit about the technical portion, the theory of what's the project. So as Rita Mulcahy says, she's the guru of a project management professional. A project is a temporary endeavor undertaking to create a unique product, a service, or a result. In other words, the project has beginning, mid, and end. So we're doing a construction project. We're going to start in a given date. We're going to do the design. We're going to do the procurement, and we're going to implement. The project is not like an operation that you were in a building for 10 years. That's not considered a project. Within a building, you have several projects that you're going to start and finish at the same time. With that, we're going to talk a little bit about the budget, schedule, and scope, the triple constraint. So Rita Mulcahy refers to the budget, schedule, and scope as the triple constraint. In project management, a fundamental concept she emphasizes in her PMP preparation materials. And if any of you wants to be a formal project manager, in other words, to have the PMP on your signature, you have to study um, a book, and you have to have several hours of project management, and then you go through a simulation, and then you take the test, and then you can have your PMP certification. I'm a PMP certified, and you can reach out to me after, and I'll be more than happy to guide you through the process if you'd like to be. So on the scope is what is to be delivered, the work required and features of the project and results. Time is the schedule, when it will be delivered, the project timeline and deadlines. One item that's different from Rita Mulcahy to real estate is that in a real estate, sometimes there is a lot of change, but we cannot change the end date, because sometimes we have a lease agreement that the client needs to leave the space where they are. So different from Rita Mulcahy book, where you just change the schedule, we needed to come up a risk much earlier, where you can come up with other solutions to keep on a schedule. If there is a material that's coming from Europe, that you may need to provide some local material, but you needed to always keep thinking in the schedule how you're going to improve and deliver what the client is looking for. And the cost, that's the budget that you put them together. We're going to talk later on in more details. So in the beginning of a project, you have an approved budget from your client and a timeline that you needed to deliver and an envision of the scope that you needed to provide. So all of those, it's your Bible that you needed to make sure that you are following that and delivering accordingly.
What's the the percentages here? Is it 1 or 2 or 3? And I always have to be careful.
Can you put your phone on mute, please? Someone is talking. And then we talk about quality. Quality is about meeting stakeholders' expectation and ensuring that the project deliver are fit for purpose results. I like to say that every single conversation or email show the quality of our product. So this is a constant documentation and approach and deliverable that it shows you what you're going to deliver at the end of the day. Also, in construction, the better contract that you close with a construction company, for instance, and their subcontractors, the better will be the quality. And we will talk about this later on as well. So Rita focused in communication. She said, project managers spend 90% of their time communicating, make this one of the most critical areas of success. As I mentioned to you before, you are the maestro. You needed to control the expectation of every single stakeholder. Some people think that you needed just to control expectation of the client, which is not true. If your vendors decide not to do the right thing for you, then you are not going to be able to accomplish your tasks. So you needed to treat everyone with respect, understanding all the expectation in the projects, and clear communicating to every single person that at the end of the day, your project is going to complete well. I had some projects in the past that I communicate 100% with everybody, and I forgot to include the community. So at the end of the day, everything was uh, ready to go, and the community on that location said, no, this is not going to be built because we're going to go in the court and we're going to fight for this, and then we spend more 6 months in getting their approval. So every single stakeholder are very important. There are stakeholders that are very influent, we get them very closer, and stakeholders that's less influent, we get them closer as well, so you can communicate the projects well. In Rita Smulka's book, you have plan communication management, manage communication, and monitor communication throughout the cycle of the project. And risk. Risk is everything that's going to hurt your project. So every single risk that you have in a project, there is a cost associated, a schedule associated, and a scope associated. That's why it's so important, this simple task of identify all the stakeholders in a project and their influence in the project in the beginning is important. Because sometimes you were closing, finishing up your project, and you forgot to bring IT folks, which they needed to put some infrastructure for their cabling or for their audio visual. So all projects always involve uncertainty. And the risk management is about minimizing threats and maximizing opportunities. And as Rika Mulcahy says, this includes risk management, identifying risk, performing quality risk analysis, performing quantity risk analysis, plan risk responses, implement risk response, monitor risks, and so on. So this is also part of a project. And then with that, we're going to go to the life cycle. I think everyone here is a little bit more interested because this is our industry. So what we do in a project. So on this portion of the presentation, I put what PMI says, that's initiating, planning, executing, monitoring, and controlling, and closing. And in this portion, it's exactly what our company does for the cycle of a project. So phase one is understanding the client. is understanding the vision of the client. What is the project brief? What is the project budget? What is the scope, the schedule? What are the will be the project procedures, the planning strategy, the building evaluation? Sometimes we needed to go to several different buildings. Then we needed to do a return on investment analysis to show which building has a better infrastructure of other. Let's say that a client is expanding and they wanted to one more floor to expand their operation, and they do not have the floor below is not available. So what we do? We have 3 floors below that we can negotiate with the landlord to rent, but there is another building that's coming up in exactly the same time that you needed your lease to expire, that you're going to have all the 4 floors and it's a better plan. So we put all of these in a spreadsheet, in financial spreadsheet, calculated the return on investment, and present it to the client so the client can make a decision from financial point of view, from structure point of view, from location point of view, what is the best build that they should go to. And then we do a stay versus go analysis, and that become our project chart. So the project chart is how good a client can make a decision to start a project. In the end of this phase, project is accepted, chart is signed, the board of directors accepts the project. Then we go to the second phase, which is design and engineering. So we do an RFP with the consultants, we do the design process, we keep doing all the time value engineering with the base of design that the client provided, interface with the authorities to see if it's feasible or not to build in that location from permit point of view. What are the contract documentation that we needed to include there? The schedule management, then you're going to develop further the schedule that you put in the beginning, and the procurement strategy. That phase 2 bring you to the construction drawings that we're going to talk in more details in the next slides. And the procurement is construction drawings with the building rules and regulations and your RFP and all the constraints of a project. Then you review the document, you finalize the feasibility, you pre-qualify the bidders, you have bid documentation process, bid process, continue value engineering. You go out to several bids. Typically, I like to go 3 to 5. Some clients want me to go to 6 to 9. So we work with the client to see how many bidders should be part of that scope. Then we do the construction schedule along with the RFP that they will provide as part of their proposal to us. And then we send the RFP out and we start that procurement portion. And after 3 weeks, when you provide them with the drawings, the construction company go to the subcontractors, get their pricing, and provide their proposal. Then we go and we level all the proposals, do interviews with the best and finals. And then once you select the bidder with the client, you provide the recommendation, then you go to the construction. In the construction company do the site organization, the reporting of the construction, submittal process. Basically, they build the space in the paper, which are the submittal, before they start the process, the actual implementation. The architects and the engineers needed to approve all the submittals that's being provided, especially when that is changing the scope. They need to make sure that everything is in compliance with what the client is requesting. Then we have the site logistics. Then we continue doing the cost management, quality control, performance management, billing administration for the bills that the project is developing through the month, and then the change order management. And on top of that, you needed to do the same thing that I said here for design, engineering, procurement, construction for AV, IT, and security systems and furniture system. I put this separately because you really needed to do exactly the same items for these 3 columns, but we track them separately. We purchase the furniture separately from the GC, the AV and IT as well, and security. Sometimes we incorporate as part of the GC cost, but most of the time we track that separately. And then once you finish the construction, and I like to say that, again, a good construction is the result of a good construction drawings with a good contract with subcontractors that has done this several times. So the better the contract that you close, typically we use AIA contracts, closing and all the exclusions and clarifications you classify and remove, if possible, from your contract. The better contract you're signed is going to give you a better outcome in your construction and a better quality and less risks. Then you finish all of those. Then you go to close out and audit and commissioning and training, and you turn over the project to your client. I know this is very fast pace. This is, I typically teach this in 7 weeks and it's still a lot of information. In the end, I'm gonna propose it to you guys some recommendations on how to learn a little bit more. So I'm gonna continue going fast because of the time that I wanted to open for some questions in the end as well. So construction management cycle. So let's imagine that the construction is completed, right? So this column right here, we have the drawings that are completed. Architects and consultants have completed their portion. Change management is in place, move management is in place. Everything is monitored by the project manager. The project manager has your budget, schedule, and scope. That's his Bible. He has a quality plan, a communication plan, a risk plan. Value engineering is on, and client satisfaction also the same thing. And the project needs to be lead, fit, well. There are several type of sustainable projects that will not impact the environment, and especially for to keep our future generation, our children, the children of our children. And then you do this construction that has a time to be delivered, that has coming material from everywhere in Manhattan, in nationally and abroad. And you have this full building operational that everybody's coming there every single day. So you use the freight elevator and you have to have a full team there from Cushman, in this case, because it's the company that I work for, in the asset management team, the engineers and us project management work with the construction companies to make sure that the schedule is followed, the scope is followed, and we are under budget. And that's how we go and complete the construction process. It seems like a lot. It is a lot, but with this very structured process from the project manager, architecture, and construction manager, this goes relatively smoothly. And with that, I go down more how we kind of lead our projects. One of the more important items for me in a project is what I called the meeting event. So in the meeting event is start in the first meeting that you have with the client. It needs to be pristine. It requires a lot of leadership skills. It required all those intangible values that I mentioned in the beginning. It requires leadership. You use the technology as well. For instance, my agenda, I send it 24 hours before a meeting. Then when I lead the meeting, I needed to know what's happening. Even though the architects do their portion, the construction do their portion, all the other consultants do their portion, you as a leader, you needed to show clarity, and you needed to show consistent, and you needed to know what's happening in your project so you can present that to your client and everyone else in the project. And then we use Copilot. AI is a big item today. So when I start my meetings, I put the Copilot to record. I don't know if Tiara, if you're recording this, but once you put in there, they give you the action items, they give you the meeting notes, they give you who do you need to follow up with, and they give you the story that happened in that meeting. That's really important. Why? Because not right now that everybody's moving quickly, but 6 months to a year from now, you are questioning, why did we make the decision? And then that's the meeting minutes, right? Why did we make the decision? You have a detailed information of why you put it together. That, and it's such a simple item that a lot of people miss or has a misconcept that make a lot of projects to fail. For instance, in a project, when you are providing your updates and your the person is not paying attention, then they miss that item, they do not deliver that deliverable, and then next week you're gonna keep pushing again, and then that item become a risk because some of the folks were not paying attention. Uh, it's incredible how you put that in documentation and you follow up well. You can take your project from a lot of risks. And then you have the schedules: master schedule, design schedule, permit schedule, construction schedule, FF&E, furniture, fixture, and equipment schedule. Some project managers think that because they're so good, they can control all the single schedules and they do not put the master schedule together. That's a big mistake and a big no-no, because the master schedule is you using all your intelligence to getting the best information from the design, from the permit, from the construction, and from the furniture, and put it together that critical path that's going to make you and your project successful. Then you have the budget, rough order of magnitude budget, developing budget, soft costs budget. So soft cost is the design and the project management and the permits. Those are the soft costs. And construction budgets, we typically work with historical information plus the construction company that help us with the budgets, and anticipated cost report that give you the entire process of your budget, how much was spent, how much was invoiced, and the financial meeting with the client. The other mistake that some project managers does as well, they don't typically, they don't have a financial meetings with the client. So I tell my team every other week, you needed to present the financials, you needed to show them what are the risks, what are the potential forecasts, where your project is going to be, and do not release any money to our client until the risks are mitigated. And then risks, hot topic items every week, risk register, what are the impacts in the risk? There is a cost impact, a schedule impact, how are you gonna mitigate those impacts? And then with that, you have monthly status report and weekly status report. Some of the clients you do bi-weekly. It seems like a lot of information and real work, but at the end of the day, it's not. It helps you to control your project and to make everybody well communicated, and mainly your client understand of all the items that are happening in the project. I like to say that if your client is looking to all the 30 pages in your monthly report and is not looking only in the 2 or 3 pages summary in the beginning, you are making something wrong. And I also like to say that if you are having 300 emails in a given week and your agenda is very small, something is also wrong. In an agenda, you needed to cover everything that's in a project. And the status meeting that the project manager does is not a meeting to talk about the details. I always tell my stakeholders that if we're talking more than 3 to 5 minutes in a meeting, you are in the wrong place. You should say, Serge, can we do a sidebar meeting because I will need more time? And that's how you control your project meeting with your leadership, and then everything goes smoothly. And then I tried to give it to you a sample of an agenda. So I put here BOMA New York webinar, The Art of Project Manager by Sergio Mendes. The name of the project, BOMA New York, weekly status agenda, if we're gonna have weekly meetings. Then the meeting date and time, the reoccurrence, and the location, the number, and the number of the agenda. So some projects I have, I've already had 150 agendas is because the project is over 2-3 years. This is in the case of a big project. And in the items, you have administrative items, and you have sub items. So introductions, Tiara is going to do the introduction, and she's going to introduce Sergio Mendes. Then item number 2, background, webinar content. So I try to do a little bit so you guys can understand that. The vision of the owner, what's a project, triple constraint, and so on. And the responsibility from this is generated the action items and the meeting minutes, budget, and so on. So this is a sample of our agenda. We're doing Excel to be very easily to maneuver. I don't like when an agenda is written a lot, but when I'm teaching new project managers, I like to show this because typically they needed to put it just the topic. It's almost like a public speaking. The more you know about the subject, you put it 3 or 5 words that means what you needed to talk about, and then you talk through, and the meeting minutes is where you control and you put all the text. The action items is who is going to do what. A common mistake that a project manager does as well is that they do not put a person. Like, in this item presenting the webinar, they said Sergio, they don't say Sergio Mendes will send the deck after the meeting or by certain date. They say Cushman and Wakefield will do that. So Cushman and Wakefield has 52,000 employees. So an action item is one person, one date, one responsibility. Even though there is 10 people that is dealing with that item, you pick the person that most likely is going to respond it to you, and that's how you control your agenda and your action items to make sure that you are in the schedule. With that, all the other items are items that are samples. Then we go deep into the financials. We say what a budget is, what a rough order of magnitude is, an ACR, cash flow, and invoice package. We show a sample of a budget, soft cost, hard cost, and contingencies. How do we get there? Historical information, similar project, market condition, project construction, experience from the project manager and the construction managers. GC help us on the takeoffs. Then this is a sample of anticipated cost report. We have the budget, we have committed, we have uncommitted, we have the total cost. So this total anticipated cost is always the same cost as the budget. And I don't release to my client because I needed to protect him from himself. If I put a budget together there, it's because there is a reason for it, and I cannot release if you have scope change, especially because this is not for scope change, this is for unforeseen conditions. And then we have a cash flow that we needed to provide it to our clients, how much around we're going to spend it through the month, through that construction. We talk a little bit about the design. So programming, schematic design, design development, look and feel, construction drawings, construction administration, permitting set. So all those conceptual items we're going to cover in the near future. Then the schedule we spoke about, master schedule, design schedule, construction schedule. Then we have the definition of each one as well. And I show you how a schedule works for us. So we have the design schedule, issue the drawings for permitting, bidding 100%, issued for RFP, then the construction phase, and then furniture, fixtures, and equipment, and closeout phase. This is a typical example of schedule. And then on all of those, I think that the most important items is who you are, what's the purpose in life, how do you consider success. So I call identity, how much you care, what's your commitment, what's your courage, what is your credibility, what's your purpose in life, through your careers, culture, and community and connection. And the success is your confidence, your clarity, your control, and creation, and make this life an incredible experience. So it's a combination. You see that I started with me being the God's son, and then you go through all your technical skills that are great, but all of this is inside of who you are at the end of the day. And I like to say that everything matters, that everything is connected, that you needed to do with decision, courage, action, generosity, and repeat. And with that, I turn over to you, Tiara. I'm done, and I think I passed 1 minute. I know it was quickly, but I needed to close out after we finish the questions and answers. Thank you.
Thank you, Sergio. If anyone has any questions, you can either drop them in the chat or feel free to come off of mute.
Hi, this is Carolina from Rock Hill. I just wanted to say, Sergio, thank you so much for this presentation. I think it was extremely well thought out and put together, and you're obviously a leader in your field, and we appreciate your time.
Thank you.
Thank you. There was a question about if they'll get the presentation. Yes, a copy of the webinar and the deck will be shared to everyone that registered.
There's also a question in the chat about how do you deal with unreliable vendors?
That's interesting. So it's your responsibility as a project manager to pre-qualify. I like to say that this is like a marriage. My wife tells, we tell this to our daughter, right? Before you get married, keep your eyes open. And after you get married, close your eyes. So it's the same with a vendor. You needed to pre-qualify well. You needed to research and see past project that they provided. But once you pre-qualify, you cannot blame your vendor for your fail. The client's gonna say, "Why are we failing?" And you needed to be courageous and say, "It was my mistake. I did not foresee that." Every time that I pre-qualify a vendor, if they are in the bid list and the client decided to go with the number 2 or 3 instead of the 1, I cannot say this is not my recommendation because you needed to be responsible for. So when I said that you in the procurement phase is the most important one and how important is to close a good contract, that's where you go. So to answer your question, unreliable vendors would not be in my bid list and will not be part of my projects.
Thank you. Are there any other questions? Okay, we have another one. How have you been handling the tariff situation with your clients?
That's a great question. I love to say that I would love to have a crystal ball because if I had, I would be rich. Nobody has a crystal ball, right? But your clients, they want you to provide your best guess based on all the information that you have available. The way that I do is the same way that I do budget. I collect all the available information at the time, including my vendors, my GCs, not one of them, 5 of them, plus the market situations, plus I read a lot about it, and I put everything in a shaker and then pass it through like an actual juice. And I know that I will drink that juice. So every single document that I'm gonna provide it to my client, I know that's my responsibility. Right now, we are saying as Cushman that the tariff is between 3 and 5%, but we are well settled in a case-by-case basis. Through the, I like to say, the way that the fruit is being mature when you're doing the construction drawings, is like a fruit becoming mature, is when you have the construction drawings. So you are always communicating with your vendors to make sure that you have covered in your budget. So some people pad budgets. I don't pad budgets. I establish well defined and guessed resolutions to provide the recommendation to the clients.
Thank you.
About project management, no one question. I know it was very quickly, but this word, I've been doing this for 25 years, and every single project is different. I did huge projects already. I put the first Facebook in São Paulo, Brazil. I did several distribution center. And 2 months ago, not 2 months, 6 months ago, I was doing a 5,000 square feet project where I could not handle that project. And the first time that I look at it, I was like, we need to fire the construction company because I knew they were not performing. And my landlord said to me, no, they are with us for 40 years. I said, I'm sorry, but you're going to have trouble. So after 6 months, they were like, Serge, you're right. Can we fire them? And then I fired them. And within 2 months, the project is almost done. So I'm finishing up. And it was such a small project. So I like to say that there is no easy or difficult project. It's people. The people deliver the project. So you need to have some people that you can rely on, that will deliver that with you, that's committed to deliver that project with you.
Thank you. Well, I don't see any other questions in the chat. However, if you think of something after the webinar, once we close out, feel free to email myself or Sergio. I will share his contact information in the follow-up.
Can I talk a little bit about the charity? I think we have 8 minutes.
Yes.
Okay, thank you very much. I really appreciate it. So one way that I find that's meaningful to me, that's successful, is, as I mentioned here, is decision, courage, action, and generosity. That comes to the generosity item, and where everything matters, where you are exactly who you are and what your deep roots are. With that, I like to give back, right? So I'm always giving back. That's my 4th year with providing clean water to children in Africa. And what I do, even though I'm a little bit fat and a little bit chubby here, I already run 8 marathons and I'm gonna run Berlin right now. And this year I needed to raise funds for 400 children, which is basically I'm partnering with 400 people to each one give you $50. I think that this will bring in life to one child that is not gonna die after 5 years. And with that, I like to give much more than what I receive. So I'm doing a free course for project management in 7 weeks for those that are interested. And again, the course is 100% free. But if you sympathize and you wanted to help me to help those children, you're gonna have this slide from Tiara, and you can click in this link. The money goes 100% to World Vision. That's gonna bring to the children in Africa. Thank God, all my expenses, travel, lodging, and food, and everything is covered by me. I do this because I felt this like my mission in the earth. And I also wanted to help people to learn what I have, right? So project management, I'm an expert in project management, so I wanted to give that for free to people. So I'm doing this course, and I put here, Tiara, after we discuss, but I'm doing this training online, and maybe it can be on site as well, that where on July 10th, I'm gonna break this down, everything that we saw here in different items. So on the 10th, I'm gonna talk about the vision. On the 17th, financials. On the 24th, the schedule. 31st, scope, communication, and business. And the 16th, life and incredible experience. I'm gonna be available through those days. I'm gonna send the link and open the link. I think it's a way of giving back to society. And if you guys are interested in learning a little bit more about project management, if you guys want to partner with me here in this great project, I'd love to have your help and support. And thank you.
Thank you so much, Sergio, and thank you everyone for joining today's webinar. Again, if you have any questions, feel free to reach out, but thank you again for your time today.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Thanks for the trust.